1860, the Pony Express was formed. Let's take a look at the history around the Pony Express and some of the legends and myths that we still hear today. Established in 1860 as the Central Overland California and Pikes Peak Express Company, the Pony Express took the route from St. Louis, Missouri to Sacramento, California. Almost 2,000 miles of rough terrain. The founders of the Pony Express were William Russell, Alexander Majors, and William Waddell. They were already owned a large freight and drayage business. At the peak of their operations, they employed 6,000 men. They had owned 75,000 oxen, thousands of wagons and warehouses, plus a sawmill, a meat packing plant, a bank, and an insurance company. They were a large corporation of their day. When one thinks of the Pony Express, they usually are reminding of this poster, whereas it states about men under 18, wiry, orphans preferred, $25 a week. The problem with that is this poster never existed in the day of the Pony Express. No records have been found for it. The earliest records of this poster has been in 1902. The words on this reproduction are very close to what was in reality the ad that appeared in the newspapers of the day. The wages were only $50 a month, and there was no mention of an age or anything else. Buffalo Bill, William Frederick Cody. This man claimed to be a rider for the Pony Express, but there has been no records to substantiate that claim. He was a messenger for the company, but not a rider. He did, in fact, romanticize the Pony Express in his Wild West shows, which actually perpetuated many of the myths we hear about the Pony Express today. Many of the buildings that were used for the Pony Express are still in existence today. They include this one, the St. Joseph building in Missouri, which was the big start point of the Pony Express. And then there's this one, the Hastings building in Sacramento, which would be the end point or the starting point, depending on if you're going west or east. Many of the stations along the way have markers that were where they used to be. There were two kinds of stations. There was home stations and relay stations. Relay stations were where the horses were changed. They were situated every 10 to 15 miles along the route. Riders changed at the home stations, and they were situated about 90 to 125 miles apart. The stations were often just dirt covered floors, hovels really, out in the middle of nowhere. They basically held livestock, the horses of course, for the changeover, and if it was a home station, then it would have a bed, perhaps some more amenities. Depending on the location of the station, it would depend largely on how well it was kept. About 80 men were hired for the first run of the Pony Express. Later, other riders were added. Typical age for the riders was about late 20s to early 40s, not teenagers as commonly thought. Only 6 riders actually died during this run of the 19 months. It was not as dangerous as it was made out to be, although they did run through Indian territory. Several riders actually were thrown from their horses. One tripped over an oxen in the middle of the night in California, and he died when the horse fell on top of him. most dangerous jobs on the Pony Express routes were not the riders. They were the home station and relay station personnel. They would often get murdered. The relay stations get burned down to the ground, horses stolen. It was a very dangerous area because of the isolation. The riders just went through the areas, and they were fairly quick. It was the station personnel that suffered the most. Due to the fact that property was being destroyed and personnel being murdered, the company was slowly going bankrupt. It was during 1861 that Wells Fargo took over the company and took over the last part of the runs before the company finally went under due to bankruptcy. You often hear that the demise of the Pony Express was due to the invention of the telegraph. The telegraph was actually invented in 1830, a good 30 years before the Pony Express came into existence. The demise of the Pony Express was actually due to poor management and the fact that Wells Fargo put through a stagecoach line on that route and basically eliminated the Pony Express. Now here's some trivia related to the Pony Express. Sit back, enjoy the music, and read the screen. Bye.